By their very nature, mysteries are pretty tough to crack. After all, people like you and us have been trying to solve them for decades, if not centuries, and they've got nothing but reasonable theories and a good dose of imagination to show for it. Now, it's not that we don't want to solve them. It's just that sometimes the mystery is simply unsolvable. No matter how much we try, we just can't seem to find the answers. In this video, we'll take a look at 15 unsolvable mysteries that will haunt you forever, and maybe even inspire you to take a crack at solving them yourself. Let's start off with number 15. What caused the Great Unconformity? Geology doesn't usually make headlines, but when scientists realized that over 1 billion years of Earth's history was just missing, it raised more than a few eyebrows. The discovery dates back to 1869, when geologist John Wesley Powell noticed something strange in the Grand Canyon. Layers of rock that should have been stacked neatly, one on top of the other, were missing entire chapters of time. Since then, researchers have found the same thing worldwide, with some gaps twice as large. What erased 40% of Earth's history? One theory blames massive glaciers from the snowball Earth period, scraping away rock as they expanded and retreated. Another theory is way more chaotic. The ancient supercontinent Rodinia broke apart, shifting and colliding so violently that it literally bulldozed history out of existence. Here's where it gets weirder. Some scientists think all that missing rock ended up in the ocean, pumping minerals into the water that triggered the Cambrian explosion, the period when life on Earth suddenly went nuts and diversified at an unprecedented rate. In other words, the Great Unconformity might not just be about what's missing, it might be the reason we're even here at all. Number 14. What's up with the Salish Sea feet? Since 2007, more than 20 severed human feet, mostly still in sneakers, have washed ashore along the Salish Sea between Canada and the US. That's not the kind of thing you can just brush off. Naturally, theories exploded. A serial killer? A mafia dumping ground? Something not of this world? Turns out science has a less horrifying, but still pretty wild answer. Most of the feet belong to people who drowned or died accidentally. When bodies hit the water, they sink, and marine life gets to work breaking down soft tissue. Feet, which are only loosely attached, tend to separate pretty easily. And here's where modern footwear comes in. Since the early 2000s, running shoes have been made with lightweight, buoyant materials, meaning that when a foot detaches, it floats instead of sinks. The wind and ocean currents around the Salish Sea then do the rest, pushing them onto shore instead of carrying them out to sea. So, while it sounds like a setup for a horror movie, it's really just a mix of ocean physics, sneaker design, and some unfortunate circumstances. Still, something is unsettling about knowing the sea is out there, collecting feet. Number 13. How and why were the Olmec heads made? Before the Maya and Aztecs built their empires, the Olmecs ruled ancient Mesoamerica, and they left behind one of the biggest, literally, mysteries in history. 17 giant stone heads, each carved from volcanic basalt boulders, some standing nearly 10 feet tall and weighing 8 tons. They weren't just art, they were monuments of power, likely depicting rulers. But the real question? How did they move them? These heads weren't carved where they stood. Each massive stone was transported over 50 miles from its source, long before wheels or beasts of burden were in use. Theories range from wooden rollers and sleds to raft systems and man-made causeways. Whatever method they used, it required a ridiculous amount of manpower and planning. And then there's the bigger question: why? These weren't generic statues. Each head had distinct facial features, suggesting they were personalized portraits. Some theories say they honored rulers, while others suggest they depicted legendary ball game players, maybe the ones who didn't make it out of the game alive. But the truth, no one knows. Number 12. The incident at Dyatlov Pass. Some stories stick with you for life, and the Dyatlov Pass incident is one of them. Picture this. It's 1959, deep in Russia's Ural Mountains. 9 experienced hikers set out on what should have been an ordinary trek. A few weeks later, their bodies are found scattered across the snow, half-dressed, some barefoot, their tents slashed open from the inside. Whatever happened that night wasn't just an accident. At first, it looked like hypothermia. But then things got weird. One had a crushed skull, another was missing their tongue, and some were covered in burns. Radiation was found on their clothes. And yet, no signs of a struggle, no footprints from intruders, just pure chaos. Over the years, theories have piled up. Soviet military tests, secret KGB missions, Yetis, UFOs, you name it. A more scientific take suggests infrasound, a low-frequency vibration that messes with the brain, causing paranoia and panic. But honestly, even that doesn't explain everything. Decades later, no one really knows what happened on that mountain. Number 11. The Havana Syndrome Mystery. It started with a headache. In 2016, American diplomats in Havana began reporting strange symptoms: nausea, dizziness, memory loss. Some even suffered brain damage. The weirdest part? Almost all of them heard an eerie sound before falling sick. Some called it a high-pitched whine, others said it was like marbles rolling on the floor. By 2018, over 40 cases had been reported. Some thought it was a new Cold War weapon, something designed to scramble people's brains. The CIA got involved, but even they had no answers. The Cuban government denied everything. And then, it spread. U.S. diplomats in China started reporting the same symptoms. One theory? A botched surveillance operation with malfunctioning spy tech accidentally frying people's nervous systems. Another? Mass hysteria fueled by paranoia. And then there was the truly bizarre suggestion that the noise came from crickets. Yes, crickets. To this day, no one knows on this earth what really caused Havana syndrome. Well, it's just scary. Number 10. The ghost ship, the Mary Celeste. There's something extra creepy about abandoned ships. The Mary Celeste is the granddaddy of them all. In 1872, this fully stocked, perfectly functional ship was found drifting in the Atlantic, with not a single soul on board. The crew? Gone. The lifeboat? Missing. But there were no signs of struggle, no distress signals, no blood. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and 7 crew members had vanished into thin air. The ship's cargo was untouched. The food was still there. Even personal belongings were neatly in place. The last entry in the ship's log gave no hint of danger. So why did they abandon ship? Theories have been flying ever since. Pirates? Unlikely. A mutiny? No evidence. A sea monster? Okay, that's a stretch, but fun to imagine. The most scientific guess? A chemical explosion from the cargo. But that doesn't explain why no one ever found the lifeboat or its passengers. Mary Celeste is still a mystery. Number 9. Who and where is D.B. Cooper? If you could pull off the perfect crime, how would you do it? Well, someone already did. In 1971, a guy calling himself Dan Cooper boarded a flight from Portland to Seattle. Mid-flight, he casually handed a note to a flight attendant. She ignored it until he leaned over and whispered, "You should read that." "I have a bomb." He demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The authorities complied, thinking they'd catch him after the plane landed. But Cooper had other plans. After releasing the passengers, he ordered the crew to take off again. Then, somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, he strapped on a parachute, took the cash, and jumped. And that was it. He vanished. No body, no parachute, no sign of where he landed. The FBI spent 45 years looking for him. In 1980, a kid found some of the ransom money buried near a river, But that only deepened the mystery. Did Cooper survive? Was he an ex-military pro? Did he pull off the ultimate disappearing act? The FBI finally closed the case in 2016, admitting they had no clue. And just like that, D.B. Cooper became a legend, the only hijacker in history to get away with it. Number 8. What happened to Roald Amundsen? Roald Amundsen was the definition of a fearless explorer. He conquered the Northwest Passage, beat Robert Falcon Scott to the South Pole, and led daring Arctic expeditions. But his final journey in 1928 remains a mystery. Amundsen wasn't charting new territory when he vanished. He was on a rescue mission. Italian explorer Umberto Nobile's airship had crashed in the Arctic, and Amundsen set out in a plane to help. Somewhere near Bear Island, the aircraft disappeared without a trace. In 1933, fishermen found mysterious debris in the area, but before it could be recovered, it sank. A 2009 high-tech search came up empty. Some believe Amundsen's plane crashed into the icy sea, lost forever. Others think he survived longer than we realize. His fate remains unknown, but one thing is certain: Amundsen died the way he lived, chasing the impossible. Number 7. Birds falling out of the sky. In 2011, nearly 5,000 red-winged blackbirds mysteriously dropped dead from the sky in Arkansas, with similar incidents reported in Louisiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Officials scrambled for explanations, with some blaming New Year's Eve fireworks. The theory? The loud explosions startled the birds, sending them into a panic flight. Since blackbirds have poor night vision, they may have crashed into trees, houses, and each other, leading to mass fatalities. Others suspect environmental toxins, air pressure changes, or even military experiments, but no conclusive evidence has emerged. While fireworks remain the official explanation, the sheer scale of the event still raises questions. Was it really just loud noises, or is there something we're missing? Number 6. Who killed the Black Dahlia? On January 15, 1947, the mutilated body of Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, was discovered in Los Angeles. Her face was carved into a grotesque smile, her body cut in half, and her organs removed. It was one of the most gruesome murders in American history, and it remains unsolved. Police questioned over 150 suspects, including doctors, Hollywood elites, and mobsters. The most infamous suspect? Dr. George Hodel, a surgeon with disturbing ties to surrealist artist Man Ray. His son, former LAPD detective Steve Hodel, believes his father was not only the Black Dahlia killer, but also the Zodiac killer, though his claims are controversial. Other theories suggest a cover-up by corrupt cops, or that multiple people were involved. Despite countless books, movies, and investigations, no one has ever been convicted. The Black Dahlia case remains Hollywood's darkest, bloodiest mystery, and it may stay that way forever. Number 5. The Circleville Letters. In 1977, residents of Circleville, Ohio, started receiving anonymous, threatening letters exposing scandals, affairs, and even murders. The letters had distinctive handwriting, and the accusations weren't baseless. They seemed to know things only an insider would know. Then things got deadly. One recipient, Ron Gillespie, got a mysterious phone call, declared he was going to confront the writer, and was later found dead in a suspicious car crash. His wife was nearly killed by a booby-trapped gun. Paul Freshour, Ron's brother-in-law, was convicted after his handwriting matched the letters, but here's the twist. While he was in solitary confinement, the letters kept arriving. Either Freshour had an accomplice, or the real writer was never caught. Was it a town-wide conspiracy? A vendetta gone too far? No one knows. What's certain is that the Circleville letters remain one of the creepiest unsolved mysteries in small-town America. Number 4. The Oakville blobs. In 1994, Oakville, Washington had one of the strangest weather events ever recorded. It rained blobs. For several weeks, small gelatinous globs fell from the sky, covering cars, houses, and streets. Then things got weirder. Residents who came into contact with the blobs became violently ill, reporting nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. Scientists analyzed the goo and found bacteria and human white blood cells inside, but that only raised more questions. Theories ran wild. Was it airplane waste? A jellyfish explosion that somehow drifted into the clouds? Or something far more sinister? A military experiment testing bioweapons on an unsuspecting town? To this day, no official explanation exists. The government's silence has only fueled speculation that something wasn't right. One thing's for sure, they are pretty terrifying. Number 3, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines, Flight 370. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished without a trace. The Boeing 777, carrying 239 passengers, took off from Kuala Lumpur en route to Beijing, but after losing communication, it deviated from its flight path, reappeared on military radar, and then disappeared forever. How does a massive commercial jet vanish in an era of satellites and radar tracking? Pieces of the wreckage have washed up on distant shores, but the main fuselage and black box remain missing. Theories range from pilot suicide to hijacking, an accidental shoot-down, or technical failure. Some even believe top-secret military forces covered up what really happened. Despite years of expensive searches, the truth remains elusive. Number 2. Brandon Swanson's last phone call. In May 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson drove into a ditch after a party and called his parents for help. He told them he was near Lind, Minnesota, and stayed on the phone with them for 45 minutes as they tried to find him. Then came his last words, "Oh, sht," before the line went dead. His parents frantically called back, but he never answered. Here's where it gets bizarre. Brandon wasn't near Lind at all. Phone records later placed him 40 kilometers away near Porter, Minnesota. His car was eventually found near Taunton, but his body was never recovered. Did he fall into a river? Was he attacked? Or did something even stranger happen that night? Number 1. What happened to the Roanoke colony? The Roanoke colony was England's first attempt to settle North America, and it failed spectacularly. In 1587, John White and 115 settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, but the odds were against them. Food was scarce, tensions with Native American tribes were high, and bad weather didn't help. White sailed back to England for supplies, but war with Spain delayed his return for 3 years. When he finally got back in 1590, the colony was completely abandoned. The only clue? The word Croatoan was carved into a post, possibly referring to the nearby Croatoan island and its people. Some believe the settlers assimilated into native tribes, while others suspect they were killed or starved. Archaeologists have found hints of English life in native settlements, but no definitive proof. Was it survival, conflict, or something stranger? The lost colony remains one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.